Jai Shri Ram. You must be wondering, what is this? Learn how to read a book? Yes, most people don't know how to read books. The 80-20 rule applies to books too. The 80-20 rule simply means 80% of anything has only 20% value, or maybe 80% of anything has no value. This rule applies universally. Maybe some exceptions are there. Obviously, I am saying that. So, because you can ask me a counter question, does it apply to Bhagavad Gita too? Well, 80% of the Bhagavad Gita is encapsulated in 20% of the verses. So, I agree. But I am not saying that 80% has no value. So, 80-20 rule can be interpreted this way or that. Now, if you are a smart person, you should go straight for the 20%. Instead of chewing all the hay yourself, just take a glass of milk. The cow has done all the work and produced. The cow is such a wonderful factory. No human has ever been able to, science has not been able to produce a factory like a cow. And milk is so nutritious and very useful, but we want to kill the cow. This is like destroying a factory. Nature's greatest factory is the cow, and these scoundrels are eating the cow. And to feed the cow, they have to do deforestation. They have to cut down trees because they have to create pasture land, and deforestation increases the amount of CO2 that leads to global warming, ozone layer, bokka, and then all the other phenomena. And these scoundrels are telling us that we are worshipping a Gau Mata for nothing. You bloody idiots, if you have the minimum common sense and science in your head, then you will understand what we are trying to say. Now, let's get back. Learn how to read a book. 80-20 rule, please understand that. 80% of the newspaper has rubbish. So, stupid people spend the whole day reading that 80%. Smart people quickly read the 20%, that is the headlines, because the headlines are normally created by the editor, who is supposed to be much smarter than the other fellows working below him. So, there is a lot of copy, lot of text. You just read the smart headline. Headlines encapsulate the whole thing. The petty details are not important really, unless you have some political motive behind it, unless you want to indulge in some political talk, which is again useless. So, now in this age, when you are getting all the news in the TV in the form of snippets, excerpts, that's sufficient. Why do you want to waste reading newspapers? I stopped. There was a time I used to read 4 newspapers. I stopped. Now, 80-20 rule. 80% of the people all over the world control only 20% of the wealth, and 20% of the people all over the world control 80% of the wealth. It has always been like that. And even if you take all the wealth away from these 20% and redistribute to all the 80%, in no time it will go back to the 20%, and the 80% will be wasting their time as usual, because they don't know how to invest their time. They don't invest their time. They waste their time, and that's why they become poor. Now, this 80-20 rule applies to virtually everything in life. Look at the 24 hours that you have every day. 80% of it is wasted on useless activities which are not going to make any useful contribution toward your self-actualization. Self-actualization means achieving all that you can achieve. You know, all of us are born with tremendous talents, but latent talents are there. Our aptitudes, we don't even know them. So we don't grow, we don't become wealthy, we don't become rich in every sense of the word. Rich does not simply mean having a lot of money. So here 80-20 rule applies to every book also. In fact, 90-10 rule perhaps, because most of the books contain information we already know. And so if you're a smart reader, you must do certain things. 1. Read the cover carefully, read the name of the author, read the back cover, because there some comments are posted, and these are comments written by obviously important people who have to write in a way that it encapsulates the the contents of the book. Otherwise they'll be taken for fools. So you got to read that. Now you read the preface and the foreword. Usually the foreword is written by somebody who will praise the book. Now that person is expected to read it and summarize it and tell us why that book is important. Usually ghost forewriters are also there. So anyway, read the foreword. Preface. The author himself will write the preface, who will explain why he wrote that book. So reading that is very important. Usually we don't read these two. You must read them. And then look at the contents. Most people don't look at the contents. And every paragraph, you see the subheading. Heading is important, subheading is important. And if in any paragraph, if there are some pictures, you focus on that. Good books usually have a summary at the end of the paragraph. Read that. And most importantly, go to the index. Look at the words. Keep a pen with you. When you're looking at the index, that's what I do. Whenever I look at any vocabulary book, I've bought a lot of books on vocabulary. And you know how I read? I take a pen and go straight to the index. Most people, I ask students, where is the index? Most students, unfortunately, don't know where the index is. The index is at the end of the book. And what I do is I carry a pen. I quickly mark out words which I don't know in these vocabulary books. Or any book for that matter, I quickly mark out concepts which I don't know. And I quickly turn to that page to read that. So, in a huge book of 1000 pages, I notice that in the index there are only 10 things that I don't know. The rest of the concepts are already known to me. So, I just quickly go to those pages and read out those concepts which are new to me. And I can calmly say that I finished reading the book, because most of the information in the book is already known to me. Why should I waste my time reading slowly? So, I've given you just a summary on how to read a book. So, this is how you have to read a book. And the more you read, the more faster you can read. And because there is a story from the Katha Sarita Sagara. In the Katha Sarita Sagara, which is an ancient book of stories, and these kind of stories are there in the Mahabharata also. There was a king who wanted to test who should be made the king after him, and he had 3 sons. So he gave these 3 sons 3 bags of gold coins, and he went on a pilgrimage, and he said he'll come back after 1 year. So he had a able prime minister who was ruling, and this was an important test. And these 3 princes, they all got 1 bag of gold coins each, huge bag. And the king gave, the only order the king gave was, I will come back after 1 year. I am going on a long pilgrimage all over the country, and keep it safely and give it back to me. Safekeeping. So he went away. So after 1 year, when the king returned, the first son, that fellow, he returned the bag of coins. The king took it and said, thank you very much, you're a good son. And so he sent the son away, and he said, we'll talk to you, we'll discuss what to do with you later. And then he was given a post anyway. The second son came back. He also came back with that bag of gold coins, and the king said, fine, wonderful. He also did some, he kept it very safely. So the king appreciated that fellow's efforts, said, acha beta hai, very good. And the third son came. He came with 4 bags. The king asked, I gave you only 1 bag, how come you are bringing 4 huge bags? The third son said, I thought instead of just keeping it, digging a hole and preserving it, it didn't make any sense to me, because your rule was, your order was that it should be kept safely. I have kept that safely. That bag I am returning to you, but I invested it, I multiplied it, I made sure that it grew, because that is the law of nature. Everything grows. Those that do not grow die. Use it or lose it. Muscles will atrophy. ATROPHY. Atrophy means wasting disease, like TB and AIDS. Consumption it is called. If you don't use something, you will lose it. If you don't use your brain will atrophy. Muscles, if you don't use them, they will atrophy. Wealth, if you don't use it, you will slowly lose it. So that's the law. That's Krishna's law. Those who use it will become stronger. You have to continuously become stronger. If you just think you can sit down on your haunches, on your ass, you're finished. If you're not running, if you are stationary, you will be overtaken. That's a simple rule of life. But it doesn't mean that you have to race and get tired. Inch by inch life is a cinch, yard by yard life is hard. Every minute of your life you got to be progressing. Kaizen is the Japanese word, Kaizen. Constant progress. That's what Krishna is telling you in the Bhagavad Gita. So the king finally took the decision to make the youngest son the king. The eldest son and the second fellow were given important portfolios because they were honest people. They followed the rules, but they did not understand that the rule was given, but There was nothing prohibiting them from doing what the third son did. So use your intelligence. So Bhagavad Gita does not mean you literally take the meaning and run away. There are so many unsaid things that Krishna did which you can understand only by reading Krishna's life. That is by studying Mahabharata, Harivamsam, Bhagavatam, Vishnu Puranam. But be careful. There are other Brahma Vaivarta, lot of crap and atrocity literature, lot of vulgarity, lot of interpolations to defame Krishna have been put there. So if you know the original Krishna by reading even within Mahabharata and Bhagavatam also a lot of interpolations are there, not too many but. So you got to be careful. So Bhagavad Gita clearly gives you a picture of what Krishna is. So try to understand Krishna. And of course, this story has been stolen by the Christians. Jesus Christ actually narrates a parable. The father and 3 sons and bag of gold coins and something like that. On the same lines, these Christians have stolen all the ideas from us, and then ulta chor kotwal ko date. And now there are many Christians who says Bhagavad Gita is based on New Testament. Anyway, I don't want to enter into this discussion. This discussion we can have later. Okay. Jai Shri Ram.